Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to share my personal experience of how I tried to use willpower to quit drinking and how ultimately it didn't work for me. And then also I'm going to share how I was able to quit drinking without solely relying on willpower. Now, I wanted to make this video because I used to always use the excuse of not having enough willpower to stop drinking and change other habits. But as soon as I stopped relying on willpower to change my life and my habits, everything started to change for me. So let's get into it. So when I first started my alcohol-free journey, I solely relied on willpower. I was white knuckling it, right, for the first few months. And ultimately, what I realized is when you're relying solely on willpower, it's never going to be enough to change your behaviors and to help you to quit drinking. Now, only using willpower is like being on defensive mode, right? You're always on high alert. You're trying to fight the cravings. You're looking out for your triggers. You're avoiding those social awkward moments, the awkward questions, the social pressure. And essentially, there's a bombardment of it out there. You'll know this if you've ever tried not to drink in situations, right? And willpower is enough to fight all of that in some situations, but it's never going to be enough for the long term. There's so much pressure out there in the world that just relying on willpower was never a long-term sustainable strategy for me. I was alcohol-free for about 6 months, and then one moment I crumbled, right? It was too much. The social pressure was just too much. And I didn't have enough willpower that day. So I drank, right? And then I felt like a complete failure. I felt guilty for not being able to resist the urge of drinking. And so when I realized that relying on willpower alone is not the long-term sustainable strategy for me, I found 2 different strategies that I started to implement, and it changed everything. The first thing that I did is I changed my mindset and my perception and beliefs about alcohol, right? So you might have heard the expression that you change your beliefs, you change your actions. So ultimately, I realized that I wanted to drink. I was drinking to relax me. I was drinking to fit in. I had all of these reasons why I wanted to drink alcohol. So if my beliefs are that alcohol isn't that bad, it's only one, like I'm using it to de-stress myself, but then I'm using my willpower to try and not do it, ultimately, I'm going to follow the actions that relate to my beliefs. So when I started to address my beliefs, I started to question them. Okay, what is it that I'm thinking about alcohol? And I realized that I was glamorizing alcohol. I grew up in the Sex and the City era, right? Carrie Bradshaw would always have her Cosmo, which is with her girlfriends, and that's how they spent time together. And so that's how I thought I had to spend time with my girlfriends, with a cocktail in my hand. I thought that after a long week at work, I deserved a drink because it was going to help me de-stress. And when I started to examine those beliefs that I had around alcohol, and I realized that those beliefs weren't true. It's scientifically proven that if you drink alcohol, your stress levels are much higher than a non-drinker. And in that moment, it numbs for the first 20 minutes, but then those difficult emotions, those difficult feelings, not difficult, but the uncomfortable feelings, right? They start to come back. And so, yeah, it takes stress away, kind of, can we say that, for 20 minutes, but then it comes back 10 times. So when I started to create new beliefs around alcohol, which were more true to myself and to the scientific evidence out there, that I don't need alcohol to have fun with my girlfriends, that alcohol does not de-stress somebody. So once I changed my beliefs around alcohol, in the moment when I was tempted to drink, I would go back to my beliefs. Okay, no, like I don't have that urge to drink anymore, right? So that was the first strategy that I started to use, and it changed everything for me. And the second thing that I started to implement was mood regulation. Now, this sounds strange, so hear me out. So I realized when I was having a good day, when I was happy, when everything was going my way at work, in my relationships, everything, it was so much easier to be alcohol-free. But the days that it was tough to be alcohol-free was when my mood was down, when I was slightly depressed, I was angry, I had those uncomfortable feelings. So when I had a low mood, that was when I was most tempted to drink alcohol. So when I realized that, I started to really focus on, okay, how can I stabilize my mood, right? Obviously, everyone has their ups and downs, but I want to avoid those downs as much as possible. So in the moment, if I felt like a bad mood coming on or just feeling a bit off, I had like a list of different activities that I could do that would instantly boost my mood. And those would depend from like, if I was extremely anxious and I needed to come down, it would be having a herbal tea and just, I'm British, right? Like holding a hot drink, like a hot tea, just brings me down. I don't know what it is. Is it a British thing? Maybe. And if I had any of those down emotions, just being really sad, a little bit lonely perhaps, I would also have different activities that I could do that would bring me back up. And it could be like, for me, I love to dance alone when no one can look. So I'd put on my favorite track and just dance, go crazy for 3-4 minutes, and that would raise my energy. That would be enough to get me out of that mood, right? So that was the second thing, mood regulation, and being really careful when I did feel myself going into that dip. Okay, what am I going to do? Is it a 5-minute walk around the block, a little dance, phone a friend, whatever it was? And that would really help me because it was in those moments I was more vulnerable to drinking alcohol. So I went from relying solely on willpower, white knuckling it, which was completely unsuccessful for me, to then changing my beliefs around alcohol and then focusing on my mood regulation. And that just, it made quitting alcohol so much easier for me. I would love to know your own experiences and if you have any questions about these two different techniques or any questions in general about quitting alcohol. If you like this video, I would love it if you could like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And so you'll be notified about the next episode, which will be releasing very, very soon. Until then, take care of yourself. Ciao, ciao.